I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of the On Purpose Woman magazine. And I'm here with Andrea Hylen to talk about her article in the January-February issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Andrea, hello. Thanks for being with me.
Hello, thanks for the invitation. It's always fun to dive into the writings, and I even just sat and reread the article, so I was
Me
current
too.
with like, whoa, what was the current article? So
Let
yeah,
me
so
just say this before we get into the conversation. I want you to tell everybody about yourself, but I also want to just jump in and say you write so much. You write so much. I don't write a lot, but are you ever surprised? Sometimes I go back and I read what I wrote and I went, "Whoa, I didn't even know I knew some of that stuff. That was brilliant." I mean, do you have that experience?
all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, because to me, part of the writing experience is actually tuning in to another, I'll just say dimension. It's like another part of myself.
hmm,
So it's asking the questions and then tuning in and seeing what flows through, because there are times where I'll write something and I'll think, whoa, did I write that? Did I think, where did that come from? So I do feel there's another, when you write, there's something else that's speaking through you.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and your work.
Well, just to briefly say that I am a developmental writing coach. I work with women in the incubator for 5 months every year, and I work with people individually. I call myself a life scientist because I am curious about life and tuning into that other dimension to see what I can explore while I'm here in this human body. And then I am an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. And really, that came out of my work with working with women and writing, because I realized there was some other dimension that we could tune into that could help us
Mhm.
navigate the world. So, yeah, that's me.
Okay. I remember the first time I heard you use the term life scientist. It's been years ago. I think you've been using this term for a long time. I'd never heard anybody say that before. And I thought, wow, that is so perfect. A life scientist. And that's also like an easy term, I think. I'm a
Hmm.
life scientist. So everything that's going on around me is just information. It's just research, right?
It is. It's all research. I
Yeah.
mean, you are a research project, so enjoy what you can learn about yourself
Yeah.
and all. And matter of fact, although I've taken numerous courses and trainings and read books and listen to podcasts and all of that, there's really no training for being a life scientist other than showing up and being curious and being present in your life. So, yeah, there's no degree to get from it. It is life.
Was so well said, and we could stop right now, and people have gotten their money's worth with watching this. But we're going to talk about the series of articles that
Mhm.
you committed to writing a series of 10 articles on conscious self-evolution. And so before we go into this article, what inspired you to write about conscious self-evolution?
I feel like we are at a time on the planet where there's a lot of change that's happening. And I know that I'm a follower and a student of Barbara Marx Hubbard's work, and that she was inspired in the 50s. Let's just say it this way, that a voice spoke to her when she was in the woods, and that she saw that there was great change that was coming. She didn't know the timing of that, but she knew that there was something connected with evolution and that we were in a spiral. She saw a spiral of evolving, and that the more consciousness we could bring to it, the more we can actually impact with our choices and decisions.
Mm.
And so it just felt like if we didn't understand with some of the other cycles we've gone through, like the Mayan calendar, for instance, was one in 2012 that had a prophecy of something ending and something beginning. Certainly, we were all impacted in 2020 with the pandemic, and that in some way that was an opening to change.
Mm.
And so we all have our own stories about that. Some it created a big pause, for others, they went into a lot of action, but it also created a reflective time about what was happening and what was happening in their lives. So it just felt like now is the time for us to understand even more that every choice and every decision is what carves our own lives or our response to things that are happening, our reactions. It's impacting. And so let's just take some time to look at it. And it just felt like Barbara's book, 52 Codes for Conscious Self-Evolution, was something I was lucky enough to be part of the beta testing for that group back in like 2006, I think it was. And we didn't do video. I don't think we did video conferencing at that point even. I think it was just people on a telephone call, all connected to each other from around the world. And so, yeah, now is the time.
Time. Wow. And I think being conscious of the changes, conscious of what's in front of us, conscious of our behaviors, our thinking, all of that can help this. For me, it helps it to be, I usually like to use positive words instead of negative words, but it can be less painful.
Mhm.
And I don't know a great opposite of that that says what I want to say. It can just be less painful. This does not have to be a struggle, right?
Mhm. Right.
Okay. So the article that you wrote in this issue, which is the sixth one, is about repatterning. Be ready to repattern. So what is repatterning? Repatterning.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Let me just say the code for anyone who hasn't read it, the whole code is be ready to repattern at the next stage when the larger pattern is ready for you. And this is, I know that everyone listening today is you have had an experience where something changed in your life. And there have been moments where you realize I'm prepared for this.
Mm.
Like whether or not it was a course you took, or let's say that you had this instinct to clear out clutter in your house without even realizing that you were going to get a job offer and it required a move and you were going to sell your house or move pretty quickly. It's like there's a readiness of stepping into that new pattern, and you have been preparing for it, either consciously or unconsciously. And that so the be ready to repattern. I'm wondering if there's anything else that I can put into that. Yeah, it means that something's going to shift. I don't know. For some reason, I'm getting the image of cookie cutters. And it's like you've been fitting into a certain cookie cutter. And all of a sudden, you realize you don't fit in that any longer. And so you get out of it and you see another one and you go, that's actually the one to go through, whether it's the keyhole the key to open the door or something. But that's the repatterning. That's something in you is ready for a change.
Well, in your article, you share a few stories that I think are such great examples of repatterning. Would you just pick one of those and tell us a little bit about it? And then I think our viewers can actually see an example of what you're talking about here.
Well, I'm going to, I guess I'm going to jump into the Jonas Brothers just because that's such a fun story. And yeah, and even in the article, I had told a couple of stories and said, but wait, there's more. So I have been talking about this Jonas Brothers thing that I went on this adventure with my daughter. And we really went to 78 concerts in like between 2007 and 2010. And you know what? Here's the thing about repatterning. that I'm going to tell you is when I started going to concerts with my daughter, there was a reason in the beginning because her father had died, my husband had died, and it was something she was excited about in life. And I wanted to support her in that excitement. So, sure, I'll drive 2 hours to go to a concert, a free concert in Philadelphia. Sure, we'll go and we'll do they were at a theme park and we went to another one. But little by little, it's like there was another one, another one, another one until it was 45 concerts one summer where I drove, I don't know. Now I'm like thinking, how far did I drive that year? I think it was 28,000 miles. It was 11 weeks. We drove back and forth, up and down around the United States. And of course, people are asking me, why am I doing that? Why am I drawn to the Jonas Brothers? It's like you see something happening, and I'm asking myself the questions. Why is it that I'm still doing this? Why is it that I'm, not even sure that we have enough money to do this? Why do I keep like feeling like this is so important? There's something about this quest that is so important. And then seeing that I was meeting people along the way who were either inspired about it, curious about it, or they gave me a like a reflection where I realized, oh yeah, maybe that is why I'm doing it. Like they had an idea. Now, because that was 2009, that summer. And so here it is, 2024, and I have more perspective on what happened. Even at the time, there was something where I thought, maybe my daughter is going to be involved in this new phenomenon of social media, this new thing. So going from concert to concert, social media was really a bigger picture that was happening. I signed up in 2008 for Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, had a YouTube channel. I even used this platform that I don't even think exists anymore, Ustream, where I did some just inspirational talks about life, things I was discovering about life that I wanted to share with people. And it was a learning ground for what's possible with social media. And that I then started using with Heal My Voice and was able to do programs, online programs with women all over the world. And I was able to use social media to connect with people and to celebrate the women's voices after writing. And I had the confidence to jump on a blog talk radio show and do 44 radio shows over the holidays in 2010. It was, that experience. And so that was something where I was drawn to it. And then I was learning things as I went along. And then I was able to use that in another way. So if I had ever told you, oh yeah, I'm on this Jonas Brothers thing because I'm going to start a nonprofit and I'm going to work with women who are going to write stories about trauma, loss, and grief, and I'm going to have them get on the radio and talk about it. Like I had no concept of any of that. But when I started getting the middle of the night voice that said, get on the radio, and I said, get on the radio, what's that? It's like all you need is your computer and a phone. It's like, okay, well, I've seen what that looks like. And so, I know that everyone here can think about a time that you were drawn to something. And it might have even felt crazy or strange, or you didn't have the answers for it at that time. And then a larger pattern appeared.
Yeah.
And you were ready to step into that. This was not, so that was a whole new pattern that I was stepping into.
And you're not in the moment necessarily noticing that where it's taking you, right? It's only
Right.
more in retrospect that we kind of get, oh, now I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you might have little clues. I mean, I remember thinking, oh, this Twitter thing is so cool. Like, teenage girls were saying, "Hey, we're all meeting." They're posting on Twitter where they're meeting, and we've just arrived in a new city, and they give us the location, and then we could connect with people,
Mhm.
through this Twitter thing, and so yeah, so there was like a curiosity about it, but no way did I see a bigger picture
Yeah.
for how this was going to play out. So anyway, that's the story.
And I love hearing it. I loved reading it, but I also love hearing you say it because, I've known you a long time and I'm an observer of all of those things. And I remember thinking, wow, Andrea is so ahead of the game here. She's like, look what she's doing. She's got a radio show. I mean, I had a radio
Yeah.
show, but it was in a studio with radio people. It wasn't
Yeah.
online. And so you really were a pioneer in that, I think, for a lot of women.
Mhm.
People around you who saw you doing it and thought, well, maybe I can do that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And whether or not 10 people saw you doing something, or 100 people see you doing something, or 1,000 people, it's not necessarily the numbers, it's the fact that for some of us, we click in with something and that inspires. And there were people who were inspiring me that
Mhm.
summer,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, you can do that? Oh, there's a thing for that? Oh, okay. So it builds a confidence also in trying something new.
Yeah, for sure. And I just had this thought as you were speaking, because I'm not familiar with the term really repatterning in that way that you described it, but 25 years ago when I had this overwhelming desire to throw a party and
Mhm.
invite a bunch of women and have them invite a bunch of women and they all showed up, and I decided to do it again 3 months later and 3 months later and 3 months later, made some observations and went, wow, I want to have a bigger party. Let's take it out of the house. Let's have like a networking group. And 25 years later, 24 years later, I guess it is now,
Mhm.
On purpose woman global community. And again, like you, if I had at that moment said, why do I want to do this? And what do I want to do it for?
Mhm.
I couldn't have told you. There was this deeper need to connect with other women. I knew that was there. You had a deep need to connect more with your daughter and help the two of you help each other through this process of losing your husband and her father, and
Right.
doing something that she was excited about,
Hmm.
because that would help her. You probably felt that would help her in her grieving process,
Yeah,
would support her in some
absolutely.
way. And so in that moment, and this is one of the things that you also mentioned, which we'll go over maybe a little bit more later, but you talk about curiosity a lot, and that to get there, we have to actually be curious, and I guess
Right.
trusting enough to go,
Hmm.
wonder why I want to do that. Well, I don't know, but it just might be fun. Feels good. I mean, you'll have a really deep reason.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's like, and because something in it made sense, even
Yeah.
though if I'd looked or analyzed it or whatever too closely, a lot of it wouldn't have made sense at the time, but something made sense. And I did enjoy, I mean, the beginning of those Jonas Brothers songs, when they really wrote those songs in the basement of their home with their dad and their uncle. And there was a lot of like dreaming energy in it. There was a lot of, you know, I'm up on the roof. I don't know it's just like I'm spreading my wings. And my teenager self was really embracing the
Mhm.
music also that was there, and dancing and all of that. And, I want to say something else I include another quote in the article by Barbara that says, this is not a one-time event, but a continuous process of unfolding toward life ever evolving. And certainly, there has been a lot of evolution in my life since I started Heal My Voice, or since I first started doing Jonas Brothers. I mean, it's almost 20 years now since my husband died, and it was his death that was the catalyzer for a lot of change in our lives. So yeah, so 20 years is a long time for change to happen, but we are always evolving. And so it isn't just the one time
Right.
event. And looking at you inviting a group of women to your living room, you have continued to evolve and repattern in the way that you do it. I mean, there was a point where when I moved from Maryland to California at one point, I had to wait until I'd be back in Maryland to have these conversations with you, Ginny. And now I can hop on and go to meetings throughout the month and meet with women from all over the world, so that is part of you have continued to repattern
Mhm.
the original idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say to anybody watching this that, and well, Andrea said this in a number of different ways, but it doesn't have to make perfect sense, and you don't have to have a particular set of skills. You just go, oh, maybe I'll try that, or maybe I'll find out more about that and see how you do that. I mean, Andrea knew nothing about social media, and you got
Right.
curious and went, this is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And I think that could be such a stopping place for so many people, especially maybe as we age. There's this sort of stereotype around aging that says, well, that old thing, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's what keeps you vibrant and relevant, and all of those things is this curiosity piece, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, and being ready for what's next, because you could be experiencing life today from a very different perspective, and it may have been fine,
Mm-hmm.
could have been perfectly, could have been better. Who knows? I mean, who knows? How can we
Sure.
judge that? But yet, I still believe that when we follow those pieces, that we can do it with more ease and grace.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that it's always easy or
No.
graceful.
Yeah, no, and that was not easy that summer. There were,
Yeah.
there were highs and lows for sure that whole summer. Yeah.
Well, you and I could talk forever on any topic, but I do
Mhm.
want to, you had 5 reminders towards the end of your article about this particular stage of conscious evolution, this particular stage called repatterning. And the
Mhm.
first one is curiosity leads the way. And I think we talked about that already, but do you want to say anything else about why curiosity matters so much?
You know what? If you can cultivate curiosity, I feel like probably everything else on the list comes into play because curiosity creates a spark in your body and it also helps you to let go. Let go of trying to figure it out with your I feel like curiosity actually brings you more into your body and out of your head because the mind wants to know the answers. The mind wants to know where you're going. It's like, all right, well, let's get curious. Drop into the body, feel the spark in your heart, feel the innocence of a child, of that wonder. Wonder is another good word to use. You know, I keep thinking about Sesame Street because there's a series of things. I haven't done it now, but for a while, but with my grandson, it's like, I wonder, like I wonder what it could be. Like you see a challenge, a problem, I wonder. Stay in that level of curiosity and let it spark the child who sees infinite possibilities.
I was kind of laughing to myself a little bit about this whole idea of wonder because it occurred to me last year, just came out of nowhere. Like, oh my gosh, how many times a day do I say out loud, I wonder what, I wonder
Yeah.
if, and
Yeah.
I say it out loud in front of my husband, Don, a lot. And I
Mhm.
realize I finally had to say to him, that doesn't really mean you need to respond.
Right.
Just
Right.
really like I'm putting it out there as though, and curiosity for me can be it's a beautiful gift, but it can also be it can take me down some rabbit holes. So sometimes I really need to step back and go, do I really need to know that? Just
Mhm.
because I wonder about it, but how far out do I want to take it? But I
Mhm.
love the fact that I am curious because I would miss some other good stuff if I wasn't.
Mhm.
I guess I'm just saying I need to be discerning about which rabbit hole I go down because,
Mhm.
but I would choose that over non-curiosity any day.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And then possibilities that you never thought of come up.
absolutely. Absolutely. I remember when I decided I was going to do a magazine, the print magazine, and I went into Don's office and I said, I'm going to do a magazine. He rears back, how are you going to do that? I don't know.
Right?
I
Yeah.
don't know. He's the grounded guy, and he's the analytical guy, and he wanted to know my steps. I don't know, because I
Hmm.
think I think more widely, and I just kept that with me for a while, and then something else would show up and went, oh, you know how to do that? We
Hmm.
can learn how to do that. So, it's such a perfect example. I have so many of those examples, Andrea, now that you have like opened my
Hmm.
mind to it of what they are, which I think is helpful because I will be, I think, more open to the ones that are yet to come.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, well, I want to talk with you about one more thing before we wrap up, but I want to tell
Sure.
everybody watching this, if you're watching this live or the replay, Andrea shares much more in her article. You can read the other really great stories about this idea of repatterning. And you can also find that article at the onpurposewoman.com magazine section. And that link is in the text of this video. It's opwgc.com. And you can also find Andrea's other articles in her series in our magazine archives, as well as the link to Andrea's website on the text of this video.
Mhm.
So, Andrea, how can our viewers find out more about you? We have your website there, but what can they find out on your website?
Well, I would go to the website, and something I'm doing right now is in the incubator that I do every year. I always post, I always have a topic, and I post a narrative with writing prompts every day for 100 days. And this year I decided that when we did the subtopic every week of that I was going to put it in my blog. So if you go to andreahylen.com, and on that main page, you'll see recent posts,
Mhm.
and all of them are down there. And the topic is flip the script. And I've been focusing on a different topic every week, whether it's something like loneliness, or flip the script on the holidays, flip the script on work, housing. This week I'm doing colonialism and the patriarchy. So I'm starting off with the first prompt of the week, and they're all there on the blog. So that's something that I would just point you to right now.
Well, thank you for that. Do you have anything else coming up that you want to let our viewers know about?
Um, no,
Okay.
I have something coming up, but I'm thinking maybe when the next article comes out, I'll talk about
Okay.
that. Yeah. So, and I'm always doing ancestral lineage healing. So if anyone's interested in that, you can look under services, and there's even a way to connect with me to talk about that if that's something you're drawn to, because I'm really passionate about that as healing intergenerational trauma, and also surrounding yourself with vibrantly well ancestors in spirit. Yeah.
Thank you for that. In your article, you also write that Barbara Marx Hubbard talked about evolution as a spiral, not a linear process, that we have experiences within experiences within experiences. And with each turn of the wheel, we learn new things and prepare to release something to step into a larger pattern. And I absolutely love this. Is there anything, another piece of wisdom, or anything you want to say about that before we wrap up? It's just the final wisdom from Andrea Hylen today.
It's one of those quotes that, first of all, I would just say for anyone listening to just say those words and see that spiral that within that. And a way to kind of lock in to that idea is think about things that have repeated in your life. And it could be a theme in your life. It could be, I share about learning about a software called Paradox, and how it was like this spiral where it just kept showing up, where learning that actually opened some doors for me in different ways that I had never imagined. But you might notice a theme around wonder, like the way that Ginny was talking about how wonder comes into her life, and she could see it over and over again in this spiral. And because I want to bring this down into a practical concept that, yeah, and actually I'll even point you in this direction. Think about an experience that you had as a child, and that you can see that experience became a thread throughout your life.
Mhm.
And as an example, even with that, I might say that maybe you remember the first time you saw a guitar and you picked it up. And throughout your life, the guitar kept coming up. And then you realized that you wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And then you decided you wanted to sing with a group. And then that led you to meeting some people. And so these spirals, for me, a spiral was around grief
Mhm.
that I had when I was 4. My brother died of SIDS. And so much of my life has been devoted to exploring grief, understanding grief, feeling grief, helping other people with grief, and it's strange as this may sound, it has been something that's brought me a lot of joy,
Mhm.
to understand grief, which to me leads to joy, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just leave you with that. Like, think about those repeating patterns and think about the spiral, and that you're not on a linear path, that you're actually in the path of a spiral.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
That also cuts out expectations, doesn't it?
it
If you're
does. It
constantly going
does.
around curves and around the bend.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Here we are. Plot
Oh,
twist.
yes. Oh, Andrea, I've loved this so much. Thank you. I always love talking with you, and just thank you for sharing on something so important and for supporting those of us who really do desire to consciously evolve. I really appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to everyone for listening and just being curious about what is in this for you. Yeah. So
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. For more information on the On Purpose Woman Global Community and Magazine, you can click on the links in this video, and also be sure to check out Andrea's website for all that she offers. And for more interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose, check out our YouTube channel, which is also in the text of this video. Thanks again.